Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of In Lay Terms. I'm here with former guest, Self-Governed. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you, Payman?
I'm really good. Things are popping off in the Middle East, and I figured who else than a subject matter expert on pretty much everything self-governed.
Thanks. It's a lot to live up to.
Yeah, no pressure.
Yeah.
We're gonna do things a little bit differently. I guess we got a sort of a script set up here. Let's try to stay with this as best as we can. We got a time limit. You got a hard stop in 1 hour, correct?
Yes. Yeah.
Uh, so let's go with the first one. One thing I've noticed in the last few weeks, you had Ukraine attack the strategic bombers. Now you've had Israel attacking Iran, and in the middle of that, you had the Pope that said that we need open borders when the LA riots were going off. Uh, do you think that this is like, is it the globalists trying to humiliate or derail the nationalist sovereigntists?
Well, yeah. They're trying to attack them. They're both attacking each other. So this is just kind of an escalation. And I think the first escalation was the Ukraine kind of drone bombing of that Russian nuclear sites, the planes and that. I think that was the first one. I don't think the Trump group knew about that. I think that may have been Ukraine and the UK or something along those lines. But I don't think the US was okay with that. So that was the first one. And then there's been a series of events since that point. And I think each one of those steps have been kind of the start of the battle, because it's getting to the time where they're going to have to go after each other. So yeah, I think that was the first step.
What were the other ones you mentioned? The series of
Yeah.
them.
So I'll give you I have a little bit of a timeline here. We can discuss each of them afterwards, but in general, the first one was that. And on the 4th, Trump had his call with Putin. So the direct call was a good call there. On the 5th, Trump had a call with Xi. All the reports came out that they were agreeing the trade deal was actually moving forward. That was happening in London between China and the US, trying to work out their trade deal. It seemed like it was going well. And then the Elon Trump fight. Who knows if this was real? Who knows if this was just a way to? I've heard people say that maybe it was a way to draw out people who were spies or not really within the system, to try to make this fight between them and see what side they would pick. But it's very interesting that as soon as that happened, the same day is right when the riot started. So it was exact same day. So whether they knew this, they're planning something and they want to make some kind of a breakup. So it looked like the Trump Elon group was kind of having a breakup, so they're weaker. So now they can start the riot, start this potentially color revolution type action that they're doing right now. So that would be that was that time frame. Riots kind of continued, although they've kind of fizzled out. We'll see what happens this weekend. I think they're attempting to kind of ramp it up. But obviously this thing with Israel and Iran has kind of taken most of the airwaves. So that I think they wait until those things kind of go away, die down, so they can be the main narrative again. And then the 9th, a lot of stuff started happening on the 9th. We saw Israel was losing a lot of the PR battle. So they're on Piers Morgan, they're on different kind of right-wing podcasts. They bring on someone from representing the Israel side, and then they bring someone like Dave Smith, for example, was the opposition to it. And they were winning these battles. And you have Piers Morgan flipping sides. Like, Piers Morgan is just out, he's out for himself, but he's a good bellwether of which way kind of everyone's feeling. So he doesn't want to be on the opposite side. So he was attacking this Israeli lawyer. Well, she's from the UK, but she was born in Israel as well. So he was attacking her, and it was quite a vicious kind of scene. So that was building up. We saw a lot going on as far as, so this would have been the 9th. You had Vance essentially reposting a lot of dissonant right talking points. You had Con Inc. kind of taking their language and reposting it, which was probably something that the globalists did not want put out in public. They don't want these conversations, even the way it's being talked about, put out to the regular mob. So that was kind of building up. And then on the 11th, there was that report. It started from this guy in the UK. It was about the Community Relations Service. So this was an agency that was set up in the 60s. It was done to try to stop or help with any problems that would have come up from all the immigration plans that they had going on in the US in the 60s. So it's kind of like it has FBI like powers. It can't really be FOIA'd. And their job was to, to start to be a part of protests, to lead protests, fund protests, to quell any issues. So if there's any dissent that was coming from it, their job was to silence it or go after news agencies who tried to talk about it. They would threaten their FCC license. So that was starting to hit, and it was going on. It was being talked about with kind of the normie kind of right sphere. So like the Dinesh D'Souza, a couple of, I think even Megyn Kelly was talking about it. They had a little episode on it. So that was kind of coming out. Like, this is an agency that was basically done to, I guess, go after certain communities within the US. And it was a government funded, completely government funded. So that was coming out. Major problem. They don't want that out. And then now we quickly go into Israel, kind of starting their attack on Iran. So it's been kind of all those flowed each day. There was something that was coming out. So information was coming out that they needed to silence. And also, I think the people kind of against the nationalists saw that they had to do something because Trump's going after their funds. They got the US aid, which is the public money that they got. It looked like they're going to go after the illicit funds. They're going after the cartel money laundering. That was the word, and the riot started right then as well. So they're going after those funds. And it's got to a point where like some of these people have to use their own money. So the Walmart, one of the Walmart heiresses is funding that No Kings protest that's supposed to run this weekend. So now they're kind of dipping into their own money, which is something they don't really want to do. They'd rather use the public money or illicit money. But now they're kind of having to use their own money. So yeah, I think all these things are connected. And as far as Israel, his government is in the process of falling. So he also had to kind of make a move to stop that or give him more time or something along those lines. But
let's start with Israel. I've heard that too, that Netanyahu is either his government's falling or he might lose immunity.
His coalition.
So he might
his
be
coalition's
charged.
falling apart. Yeah.
Who's they? When I say, let me give you my sense of who I think the globalists are. You have the international banks and the owners of the international bankers. You have the royal family and the monarchies. You have the institutions like UN, EU, WEF. UN, EU, NATO. You have other ones like WEF, Bilderberg, Council for Foreign Relations, Brookfield, Vanguard, BlackRock, stuff like that. That's what we're talking about, right? They.
Yeah, sure. And that's them. But it's people. It's a whole ideology. It's these people that believe in more like world empire versus nations. There's lots of them that they'll do it for because that's what they think is a safer world. They'll do it for money. I think there's a mix of the people within the day. They aren't necessarily all nefarious. There's some that truly do believe that if there was no nations, there would be no war. There'd be the end of history kind of thing. What was their original idea that if there's no nations, there's not going to be any wars. There's no reason to fight each other. So I think there are people in there that are doing it for good reasons. But for the most part, I think it's just a racket. It's money and power. And they'd rather control the whole pie or as much of the pie as they can than just individual nations.
Okay. I get that. And I agree with you that this whole concept of after World War II, like we can't have racism, we can't have nations, can't have nationalism to avoid another world war. But
yeah,
how did this arise, do you think? Like did BlackRock go to Zelensky, be like, yo, bro, go send some drones into Russia? And the same thing with Israel. They're like, well, we got your back. How did this happen without the US?
Without the US on that? Why? I think the UK, they may not have a strong military, but they have a very strong intelligence agency, and doing these kind of like smaller scale, people like to call it terrorism. I don't know. It's all just a war to me. It's just a different kind of attack. But those kind of attacks, opposed to more of a military attack. And the UK they're very invested in Ukraine. Like they put a lot of money on the line. Like they're backing a lot of this, so they really can't have it fail. So I think that's why UK Europe is more connected to this one. But the UK and Europe, that's where a lot of these guys are. Like that's kind of a main hub for these people. The globalists,
This is a simple question. I'm guessing you can answer it easily. How does Canada factor into this? Because Carney said we have to help arm Europe.
yeah, I don't know what he thinks he can do. The problem here is he I think he wants to join that. So the whole arm Europe, it's they're going to be taking money from savings. They're going to take it from pensions. They're going to force investment into this militarization. And really, it's just to kind of keep the whole system going. They just need money. They need collateral. That this is what they need to keep their system going, because it's on. Hold on a sec, Mike. Hey, bud. Sorry, my 1-year-old just walked downstairs.
No worries. Take your time.
Hey, can you go to mom? Go that way. Sorry about that. He can open doors now and go downstairs, and he's way more mobile.
He's at that dangerous age. Yeah.
Right. What was the last question? I forgot in his grabbing of me.
I think you answered it. I was like, how are they doing this? You said the intelligence.
I think their economic system is breaking down too. So they need money to keep it going. And
so you're saying this isn't actually going to go into military. It's just the front.
They might. They might. They may not have to do that, but I really think that they have to put this money in just keeping the system going, and they'd have to sell it in some way. They have to sell the bad guy. So Russia's a bad guy, whoever's a bad guy, and they have to sell it this way. And who knows if Carney even does this, if he's even allowed to do it, because the U.S. is not going to. If this thing is legitimate, not just a way to keep the system afloat, the U.S. is not going to let Canada militarize with a connection to Europe. It's not possible. So I think that's more of a show for the camera, just like a lot of the elbows up stuff. It was just a show to kind of get elected. We'll see what happens here. There was that report that came out from The Economist that Carney has made a deal with the U.S. to give first-rate mineral rights for all minerals in Canada. We'll see. The Economist put it up. They pulled it down. That paper doesn't usually lie. That's the Rothschild kind of paper. They don't lie. They usually do put information well ahead, because not a lot of people read it. Only people that kind of want to be in the know will read it. So they don't usually lie, but I could see them being in trouble for putting something out too early and then taking it down. So we'll see if that's true or if that's a lie. But I think that makes sense. I think Canada's going to have to just go along with whatever the U.S. says, because it's just reality. We're small. They're big. They're attached to us. All of our trade goes through them. You can't reroute this trade in any kind of timeline that doesn't collapse your system. So it's ridiculous. All that stuff is just for people who aren't thinking about how these systems actually work and how they're actually connected and how people get paid. So but everyone bought it. Most people will buy the headlines, and it's people want to be nationalistic in Canada. They don't want to be post nation, right? So they liked it. People bought it, and I hope it stays and someone can use it for the good. But right now, I think he's just lying just to try to get power and kind of so their group can manage whatever transition Canada does with the U.S. or however their relationship with what the U.S. whatever happens within the U.S. changes. They want to be the ones that manage that.
All right. Just skipping forward because we mentioned the LA riots. Point number 4. Do you think?
I'll say one thing with the LA riots I think was very, very odd. So the Mexican president, Steinbaum, she, while it's happening, she comes out and she's saying we need to mobilize for our people. We need to defend ourselves. So she was supporting these riots, which were oddly very Mexican. Like I don't understand why there'd be so many flags. Like it almost seemed like it was intentionally done that way to drive a narrative, but maybe not. So she said that she pulled it back, but then later kind of said it again, but just less directly. And then you had the president of the Senate in Mexico he had a little press conference where he printed out his little map where it showed like the old line of Mexico kind of going up through California and saying that they'll pay for the wall, but this will be the wall line, and just kind of crazy things for this Mexican government to say. They don't really have a lot of power here. So that was odd for them to both come out and kind of say something. So we'll see what happens with Mexico. I think that I've always thought there was something building between the U.S. and Mexico anyways, but we'll see if they actually were involved in any of this, the LA riots, or that was just a show for domestic power. Like they have to show that we're supporting our people everywhere in the world kind of thing. Who knows?
That was I heard that was because of the remittances, like the degree that the remittances from America to Mexico help prop up that economy is like their lifeline.
Well, it's 4% of the GDP, so it's even higher than like some of the tourism. So it's quite high. Now it's not like direct taxes; it's just money that goes back into the system, so these people can buy food, houses, and this kind of stuff. So it helps the economy that way. But I think a lot of that money that goes back to the people who smuggle them across. I think now we'll get you across, but you got to pay X amount, whatever the schedule would be. So I think there's some of that also happens. I think the Mexican government's pretty tied to these cartels. I don't think this president has changed anything. The previous two, he was listed in that Chapo arrest. So he was getting paid. They listed all the money that cartel was giving the government, and he was getting quite a bit. So I think they fund a lot of the Mexican government as well. So she has to really defend this. That's the money that's coming back to cartel and into probably just regular Mexican citizens' pockets, so they can be a little more wealthy within their country. So it's a big deal. It's a big deal to tax, and it wasn't really big. I think that the bill was like 3 or 4% of the remittance that the U.S. was going to tax, and then when the Mexican president and the Senate president came out, they're talking 35%, 50% of these U.S. Representatives or governors are like, we're going to crank it up. I'm like, well, good luck. It's hard to do that. It's actually probably hard to tax remittance, but I think it's something they should try to do, because essentially what's happening now is these jobs are being taken at very low wages within the U.S., and that money is just being sent out to another country. So it's kind of hitting the U.S. two ways. They're not really getting the money from it, and citizens don't have a job. So there's a second part of it. So I think the U.S. probably should try to tax remittance. I don't think it should be 50%, but if it's something like in the 3 to 4% that was in that bill, I think that's probably reasonable. But even that 3 to 4% had Mexico freaking out.
How do you tax remittances without that's basically you're taxing citizens? It would apply to everyone, not just Mexicans.
So there's not many ways it gets sent out. You can tell my money goes from U.S. to Mexico, right? So I think that they would probably go after any of those transactions. I think you'd have to blanket it. I don't think you could just do. You wouldn't know because some of these citizens they're not citizens. They are illegal. They're just there. They may not even have any kind of identification. Who knows? But they'll still be sending money back. So I think it's like a tax on any money moving between U.S. and Canada to like non-business maybe, or it's a personal to personal, something like that. But I think they can trace it. How they tax it, I don't know. But these guys know how to get money. I'm not concerned that they'll figure out how to tax it.
I'm just wondering because I move a lot of money into the U.S. If I was going to get taxed on that, I would lose my mind. What I'm asking is, how do you make it so you don't come across as racist, but you're only targeting one country?
Well, because that's what it would be, right? It's not like you're going to get a Pakistani sending money to Mexico, right? Or you might catch other people in it, but the rule would be if you're sending money back from the U.S. to Mexico, it'd be this. And I'm sure there's other ways that they can narrow it down a bit. I don't know how they would do that, but these guys can track money. That they can track. My friend who lives in Sweden has his pay, so the U.S. government knows what he gets paid in Sweden because he has to submit U.S. taxes because he's a U.S. citizen. He's a U.S. citizen and a Canadian citizen. He's a resident in Sweden, so the U.S. government knows what he gets paid in Sweden because he's submitted tax reform, and they're like, no, we think it's this amount, and he was wrong, and they were right. So I don't know how they know, but they'll know where the money's moving and where it's going to from who.
So the last thing before moving on, how much of this in the riots is because Trump wants to clean up the voter rolls versus how much is actually they want to deport the criminals and the illegals?
I think they have to do it all. I think they're serious in wanting to deport people. I don't know how much they'll be able to do. I think they're serious in going after the money laundering and the criminals, because it's a problem. Like these people notice, people see the news, and they can very well see who's committing crimes, and if it's disproportionate to the people who are usually there, it's noticeable, and eventually people just get so upset that it becomes a political problem. So I think right now it's a political problem pretty much everywhere in the West. So I think they have to try to do it, but they also want to go after the money laundering. They've consistently said that, and I don't think they're lying when they say that's what they're trying to go after, because I do think that that group, whether it's intelligence agencies, globalists, whatever, like that, I think they absolutely are using these drug, these cartels, human trafficking. That it's known they do that. They've done it all over the world. So I think they do want to go after that, because they have to break. If they're going to be successful, they do have to break the funding of their enemies. Otherwise, they're not going to beat their enemies. So I think they actually do need to go after that. So I think they're trying to honestly do this. It's just very difficult.
What about Pam Bondi, Dan Bongino, Kash Patel? It seems like they're not really delivering the way that we thought they would. What do you think's going on?
I don't know. I all the people who get brought up as like almost like a character. So like Kash Patel is a character. Dan, less of a character. Like he kind of had a show where every day you kind of see what he's thinking. So a little probably less of a character with him. But this is complicated. You can't like telegraph everything you do, and you kind of do have to fake out a little bit. You may have to say you're going to do something, then not do it. So I don't know. The whole interview with Dan and Kash, it looked uncomfortable. It looked ridiculous. When Kash went on Joe Rogan, it looked ridiculous. So I don't think it's going to work. If they're trying to just not do something with it, I don't think it's going to work for them. But we'll see. I think that whole thing's complicated. The whole Epstein and that, I think it's there's a lot of people connected to it that are on all sides. I think so. I think it's going to be a tough one to actually do anything about. But it looks horrible when she comes out and says we have all these tapes and we're doing this, and he comes out, no, I don't know, there's no tapes, it's fine and everything's okay. Well, someone's lying. One of you two are lying.
What do you think's going on?
He's lying.
What do you think's going on with Trump? Then a lot of people, there's a lot of negativity now that some people are starting to jump ship. They're saying he's just he's no different than all the other deep staters.
It's like just wait a week. Most of this thing, this happens and everyone's set, and then like next week they're super happy. But like this is a complicated thing. Like if you give them the benefit of the doubt, you're gonna have to. It would go in waves. You're gonna be wrong. Like the problem with Trump is Trump's a boomer, and he's gonna have he has his mind made up how the world is, and I bet you it's probably hard to change his mind on some more nuanced things that are happening within these groups. So who knows? He also does a lot of testing. So when he puts things out there, he does like one idea and then another idea, and he kind of sees which ones gets traction, kind of like an A/B test. And everyone freaks out about their one of the questions or one of the statements in it. But you just have to wait. The same thing with Elon and Trump. I said you got to wait. Everyone's like it's over. There's war between these guys. I'm like I don't think so. Let's just give it more than a day and see if things work out. And now they're back on the same team. So it's not the end of the world. They still seem to be working together and supporting each other. So I think you have to wait. I think everyone reacts. The problem is everyone gets all this information and they're just immediately reacting to information overdrive. So a lot of these things just got to give it time, kind of see how it unfolds. See, the purpose of putting out information is to drive something. So he might do something to drive another group to make a move or to come to him or something along those lines. So who knows? This is just all narrative. It's all what he puts out there is generally propaganda to do something, either inform people or get a response from another group, or see if another group's on his side or not on his side. So there's too much going on to get really, really upset about everything. Like they're all upset about this Israel thing because he came out saying he knew about it. It was a good attack, but he has to say that. Like he can't look weak. He can't look like he had no idea. He kind of got rung through a bit with that Ukrainian thing, but because he came out saying he had no idea, and it kind of made him look a little bit weak that he didn't know what was happening in that area. Like this is his baby. He's going to end it. So I think he kind of has to act tough. Like he's going on with it. So we'll see what happens here. We'll see what the response is, and kind of Tuesday, I think we'll know really if he's going this way, if this is going to be a bigger war, or this is just Israel having to run cover because baby's government's falling apart, or they're trying to stop this Iran deal that was supposed to be close, but whoever knows if that's really the case. So it's too early, I think, to find out if he's actually flipping and he's now going to be a war president instead of the anti-war president. I'm like, this is way too early. People who jump on and say this is done deal, look at this guy, he's the worst, he's the biggest warmonger president in history. I'm like, nothing's happened yet. Like there's one bombing, it's like one day of bombing, and there wasn't even like a response, like nothing had happened, but people just jump on it because they have to have a take, or they have to be right, or who knows, or they're just emotional.
X is the funniest. Like last night, every time there's a war that breaks out, you get an X space and people come in and all of a sudden they're expert military strategists. They're talking about the different technologies and this and that. And that's, I think it was the same last night.
Oh yeah, it's funny. I have a whole X list that's just all geopolitics people, and they're both sides. I can tell the people who are on like the Iran, Russia side, people who are more like Ukraine, Israel side, and the people who are generally just in between. But man, they all just jump out and they just put this stuff out. So the information that comes from them is you have no idea. They're putting videos out saying it's this. I have no idea. They don't really know. I think they're just reposting stuff. But then I went on one of their spaces and it was like, they really had no idea. So they were very confident in their posts. They're like, oh, this is happening. This person was killed. This area was bombed. It's gone. And they go in their spaces and they're talking. They're like, well, I think maybe it happened. I saw someone do this. And they're all just like calmly kind of talking about this. I'm like, well, you guys aren't confident at all. Your posts are complete opposite of what you're saying on this space. So the answer is that they didn't really know. No one really knew. And you don't really know until 2-3 days later, maybe even a week later, what actually happened, who actually died, what was actually hit. So you kind of just got to watch, these bombings and just kind of wait, see, just try to remember all as much as you can. What this person said, these things could have happened, and then just see if it happened later on, and then you can put together kind of a picture of what the attack's purpose was. Did it do its goal? How did everyone respond to it? Because how people respond, like UK or Germany or US or different countries respond to these things is generally more honest than someone putting a video of a bomb hitting something, because the governments can't really lie. They have to put a position out. So you just watch those and kind of see if it's really a big deal. I don't think the bombing in Iran was that big, because all these accounts, they just repeated the same kind of things. There wasn't too much going on. The first time it happened, when Israel went in and then Iran countered, there was way more going on. This one, It was pretty calm. So I don't know. We'll wait to see if it was a big deal or just for narrative building, distraction, maybe.
All right. Let's move on to the third topic that I wanted to bring up. You mentioned this to me, this theory of yours that, every time America tries to go isolationist, something big happens. Do you want to speak to that? I'll keep this up so you can follow the script.
Yeah. So that's probably more than this, but we can just start in the 30s. So there was a movement that was trying to make sure that the U.S. stayed isolationist. It was called the America First Committee. So exactly like Trump's wording, he used America First. This is kind of his, and even a lot of his little like fundraising things they're all titled the same title as this organization. It was building in the 30s, but it was set up in the 40s. And they were winning. It was isolationist. It was industrial policy. It was a nationalist program, America First program. It had support Democrats, Republicans. It had like Henry Ford. It had like big industrialist millionaires at the time. Everything was going fine until Pearl Harbor, and then Pearl Harbor happened. It totally ended that, and then the U.S. went into the war. So that was kind of the event that stopped the momentum of ensuring that America was going to stay more isolationist. And then later, same thing with JFK. He was trying to do the same thing. He was trying to make the U.S. more of a nationalist, not be involved in other countries, so Vietnam at the time. And then, what happened to him? 2001. So it was kind of the 90s. So it was building up through the 90s. So Pat Buchanan, the paleocons, Ron Paul, and kind of the non-interventionist libertarian movement that was building. And I think the kind of neocon version of the Republicans were going to be beaten by the paleoconservatives. And then we got 9/11, totally ended it, and that kicked in the whole war on terror and all this, the starting of all those wars that kind of happened throughout the Middle East. So it seems to be a consistent pattern that when the U.S. tries to just go within their own nation, just to go back to how they were before World War I, for example, something happens and it gets stopped. So right now the exact same thing is happening. The same, they're even using the same slogans as the 30s. It's the America First idea. They want to not be the global hegemon. They don't want to stop being world police. They want to focus on their own nation. And then now we're getting all kinds of problems. We'll see if there's going to be an event like it. I think there's absolutely going to be an event. I don't know what it is. I don't think it's going to be Iran and Israel. Maybe it might be that, and then someone helping Ukraine. So maybe if it's Europe kind of building that one back up again, it could be something like that. But I think there's definitely going to be an event, and I hope it's not like a World War III, like World War II came. But I guess we'll see. But there's definitely a pattern. As soon as the U.S. tries to be themselves and look after their nation and their people, something happens.
These wars, let's just focus on the two world wars. Like the first one, you come out of it, government gets bigger, society is reoriented, the individual gets smaller. World War II, same thing. We're living in the shadow of World War II right now,
Yep.
and 9/11. So I hate these conflicts. Like I don't want any of these conflicts, not because I'm a good person and I don't want to do harm to anyone. I don't. But I'm kind of a selfish person. I just I want to pay less taxes.
Well, the people who do this benefit from this. They need it. They want to. The big wars they used to reorder things, like World War II was used to reorder basically the psychology of everyone in the West. It really established what's good and what's bad. Who are the bad guys? Who are the good guys? The mustache man is the worst man in the world, even though he's not the worst technically. Is even in that timeline, there were leaders that did worse things, but he is the ultimate bad guy, like maximum. So and the reason is because he was the most successful nationalist by far. Like they were able to fix what that country was doing. Now all people, humans are humans, and power corrupts people. But like he was fixing the country. Like it was in shambles. Like it was totally broken up from everything that happened after World War I. So he took it from Weimar Republic to a world power again, fairly quickly with their economic policy. But the problem right now is that the youth don't have that post-World War consensus mentality. That they're too disconnected. They don't even associate with all the bad things of World War II, right? They need a new thing to set whatever agenda they want to do. I'm not certain, but I think that's what's going on right now. Like, what will be the agenda going forward? Is it going to be a newer version of globalism? Is it going to be back to more of a nationalist kind of idea where these countries are their own countries? I think that's what we're watching, is the battle for that, and a war allows them to reset things. Both sides could use it. Like both could use it as a way to reset and kind of get society going in a direction that they would want it to go.
So I know exactly what's going to happen after this episode. What you just said about Hitler, 50 billion classical liberals are going to attack me and call me an anti-Semite. So we're not saying we support the Holocaust. He's saying financially,
No, but
Hitler managed to recover
it
the
was just
country.
it was just a fact. It was a failing country, and it reversed
Yeah, I
itself.
know, but you don't know what these classical liberals are, man. The
I,
comment section's gonna get blown up.
yeah, I do know who they are. I very well know who they are. I was one of them. But it's funny because right now, like if you look, you'll have the boomers completely believe that like they're not going to change. They can't change that mentality. That's them. X, so Generation X is kind of they're closer to the boomers, but they're a little softer. Millennials are kind of a mix. Some are done with it, some are okay with it. But you go younger than that, they're completely the opposite. They have the opposite view. They're rebelling against it completely. They like that party from that country. Their videos, they share them. They share the speeches. They love it. They love the aesthetics. They love that it's ordered. Because right now they're looking at their nation. They're disordered. They don't look very nice. It's kind of feminine. It's they're like they want something different. So they're rebelling and they're going towards it. So they have to do something about that. I think they have to hopefully take those feelings and move them in a good direction. But I could see it going either way. So they have to do something to gain the youth because if they don't gain the youth, they're gonna have problems.
Um, Sue Kellen Dyer, a friend of mine, she says stop stereotyping because she's a boomer.
Well, it's just a fact, right? It's not that it's not a bad thing. It's just they're older, right? You're not going to change. You're not going to change when you're in your 60s, 70s, 80s. It's just not going to happen. And they're very concerned because they're getting towards the end of life and they want things just stay the same. I get it. I understand their incentives. It's frustrating when they make the point that, well, I'm going to die anyway, so who cares? That point is a problem when they make that point. But I understand that they want to just keep things going as they were because who wouldn't, right? I don't blame them, but they're hard to change, super hard to change. I have boomers in my life that they understand the news is lying to them. They fully understand all this and they'll say it constantly, but they'll still watch it. They'll still sit there. They cannot change it. So it,
I think the argument that you become more conservative as you get older, I think that has an expiration, like maybe 55, 60. But after that, whatever you are, you probably stay that way. Like my dad hasn't gotten more conservative in the last 15 years.
yeah, I don't know. Yeah, maybe you should become more dependent potentially depending on where you are and what the situation is. So you could be more dependent and that would make you favor probably more government programs, whether it's dental, healthcare, these kind of things. I think you would favor that. Again, it's just most people are going to be looking after themselves and kind of what's best for them. So I get it.
I want to take you back to one last thing before leaving. This might be actually our last topic. So we got 1930, 1963, 2001. You mentioned World War One was like an whatever society changing sort of event. 1913, they got the Federal Reserve. Woodrow Wilson, that monster, um, this horrible president. Is all of this starting from 1913? Like, was there maybe 1913 they hadn't started it, so you didn't have like a pro-isolationist movement back then? But is that when it started?
I don't know. I think this is always a battle. Like forever. There's Rome went from republic to empire. I think this is just a. There's been versions of this throughout history. They all change a little bit. Technology changes. How societies interact change. But I think that this is always a battle. So I don't know if the Federal Reserve would have been the thing that changed it. No, it was brought in, it was taken out. So there's definitely been a fight within that. But I don't know. I wouldn't say that that's definitely the thing. I know a lot of libertarians have a big thing for the Fed, and I get it. But there's a lot of other pieces beyond just that. I think.
Let me clarify that. When I say the Federal Reserve, like that was the first time that the international bankers managed to make a profit off the backs of the Americans. Like that's what I'm talking about. This whole globalist cartel with the international bankers that it seems to have taken off in 1913.
Well, yeah, a nation that doesn't control its money is going to be it's going to be, it's just, it doesn't really control. It's not that sovereign if it doesn't control his money. So yeah, I think that's definitely a piece that would probably has to come first, because you could tell, like, with all these things, whether it's through COVID and that, finance is a major thing in that. These got all these governments and people and corporations, they're all maximum debt. Like it's going to go some way. It's going to be inflated away. It's going to be restructured. There's going to be some kind of weird default. Something's going to happen with it because it's not sustainable. These numbers aren't real. Every time when Curran is out there, he's like, "We're going to spend this," and everyone's freaking out about a budget. I'm like, "What are you talking about?" They could just say something and then do something totally different and then lie. Like at this point, these numbers, I don't think. I think something else happens to correct whatever these numbers are, anyways, because I don't think they're serviceable. I don't think that it's gonna be. I don't think we can look at it the same way we looked at it 50 years ago. Because back then, I think you could service it, you could get out of it. There was a means, but now, if you look at Canada, I don't know how they were going to get out of this without something drastic. But and even the U.S. with the ability to kind of print the world's currency, like their export is their money, and that's the easiest export you can have. But even that debt, I don't know. I don't know what they can do.
That's an uplifting episode.
But
uh,
but here's the thing, like these debts, I think you can default on them. I think there's things you can do that aren't, they don't break everything. It's going to be bad, but it doesn't end everything. I think it can kind of reset things. That's what the Great Reset concept was. They're going to reset many things, but definitely the global financial system, because the debt was just so high.
like a present day jubilee, just wipe everything clean.
I don't I don't know if they some people some people will get the wipe clean, other people won't. Other people will lose houses, they'll lose. Yeah, some people will lose, some people will win. But it's governments. Governments want their debt away, right? So I'm pretty sure a government will sacrifice the citizens to maintain their power, so because they have the absolute control to do that. So they're going to try to fix their debt problems first, and then I don't know what that will mean for everybody else. Everyone will be definitely poorer. Like it's not going to continue on where it is now. There's no way to do that. It's just I don't know how they're going to do it. How they rid themselves of their now. A lot of this stuff is pensions to older people, and maybe those pensions are going to stop. So that's a pretty big liability. Um, I think they're going to probably have to wind out of healthcare because I don't think they're going to be able to pay it like how they're doing it right now. I think they'll probably have to get out of those um,
Can you
costs.
imagine you're a socialist in Ottawa right now, and you're like, all right, how do we keep this socialism trap going and making it, get the next generation to buy into it, while at the same time breaking the contract, the social contract we had with the previous generations?
Yeah, it's a task, and you can tell they don't really know how to do it because they try things, it doesn't work, they pull back. It's just gonna break. Like the housing bubble is just gonna break. The stock market's gonna break. These things are just gonna break, and then chaos, and then you can fix from that point a lot easier, I think. But I don't think they can. They're not gonna be able to change Canada's economic structure or any of this to a point where it's going to work. I think it's going to. They'll start losing things. You'll lose services. You'll lose your pension will be reduced. These kind of things will just have to happen. They'll say it's for the good of something. That's why they need is something. Like a war is a great thing. A war has done that before. It gets them out of a lot of things. It covers um, a lot of problems, and it gives them the option to do things that people wouldn't have accepted prior. But
Like
under
default.
war, potentially, yeah, yeah, and it could be default just by like crazy inflation. That's another way they can just get out of these debts by doing that. They've already kind of done a little bit of that, but they could go more, I think.
Do you remember what FDR did, which when he defaulted?
No.
So the government got a massive loan, let's say like $1 trillion from the bankers, and the contract said you have to either pay us back in US dollars or gold, whatever the banker wants. And FDR just changed it to we'll pay you back in US dollars. And he inflated or he devalued the currency by like 10x.
Yeah.
And the bankers were like, what the fuck? You can't do that.
I think that could happen. I think they could do something similar again. That Doug Casey, him and Matt, they have their podcast. It's a good podcast. And they've been talking about that, and they think that's likely that could happen again. Something like a major currency devaluation, which gets them out, but it hurts most people. But they've done that before. They've hurt most people multiple times in the past. They've done it. They have no problems doing it.
I guess there's no easy answers.
No, you should definitely try to be out of debt as best you can. You should have real things, like actual real things, as assets would be a great idea. Well, it can be gold, it can be physical things, vehicles, houses. Houses are harder because they can go after you with property taxes and kind of make it very difficult for you to hold that asset, which I think cities are going to be doing. Like they're going to have to make some way to pay their debts off as well. So they only really can use property taxes. So maybe a house property isn't the best method, but actual physical things could be. But people are going to have to figure out how to hold their wealth. They're going to have to really, really think about it. There's a lot of people talking about it. It's not going to be this conversation, but it's something they really, really start looking into, because the whole money system, they're either going to make it go away, they're going to inflate, they're going to do something that makes the actual currency you think is valuable become dramatically less. And the whole Bitcoin thing, I think, is just it's psychologically getting everyone ready for this happening, because it's funny watching the Bitcoin people. And who knows, Bitcoin might be fine. In my opinion, it's a very good way to move money around the world. It's a great way to move money around the world, but I don't know if it's a store of value, and I don't know if it's going to be transactional, like as in using it to buy things from a store. I don't think it's going to be that.
Well, it's funny. The number one enemy of Bitcoin is the success of Bitcoin, because if you have one Canadian dollar that's constantly being devalued, and you have one Bitcoin that's like inflating in value or appreciating in value. I hold on to my Ethereum and my Bitcoin, and I pay my contractors in worthless US Canadian dollars.
Yeah.
Like, here, take this funny money.
Yeah, the problem with all of those is that you need an off ramp. So if you ever want to convert it to something in real life, like actually, they totally control that. And they know that, right? They can let this thing do whatever it wants, but if they want to shut the door, right now, you can't like pay your mortgage in Bitcoin. You can't pay really anything, and maybe they'll be able to pull it off, but you can, if they can actually do that, where it's like a debit card, or a credit card. If they actually can make that function, and like the city would accept that as a property tax payment, then I'll be interested in what that can do. But right now, you can't do it, and all the projects I've seen them try to do it, it's just silly, small scale. They're super happy they bought an ice cream, and I'm like, okay, that's not that you. I need you guys to cover like the big bills, like the actual major things. If you guys can cover mortgages or property taxes or that kind of stuff, I'll talk to you then. But right now, it's just kind of it's crazy how much it's gone up. I had a ton. When it first came out, I had a whole bunch of them. It was a game at work. I worked at an IT company, and it was a game. Well, we had little Bitcoin miners, and it was super easy to mine them because no one was doing it. I think I had like 200 on a flash drive. I have no idea where the flash drive went, but yeah.
You had 200 Bitcoin?
Yeah.
How have you not committed suicide?
Well, I lost it a long time. I had that conversation with Bitcoin. It was like $1,000. I was like, oh, that was so frustrating. Now it's just beyond. I don't even know. I was young. I was young, and it was like a video game. It wasn't money. It wasn't anything. It was just a thing that tech guys did just to mess around. I thought it was neat, but yeah, no, I don't know where that thing went.
Oh no, I would have never been able to recover from a loss like that, dude. I lose like a $20 bill, and I'm ruined for the rest of the week.
I wasn't happy, but this was a long time ago. Like, when was Bitcoin at like 1,000? That was a while ago. So I've dealt with it. It's been 10 years or almost 10 years of just It's gone. But it would have been a lot of money now.
You'd be
I'm
like a
pretty sure I wouldn't have
billionaire.
held it. I'm pretty sure I wouldn't have held it. I don't know what point I would have sold it at because I didn't really think it was that valuable, right? I wasn't, and at that time there was no like culture or anything around holding it. I think that's very important to that group, right? The whole hold it. But that wouldn't have been the case. I probably would have sold it when it got to like $50. Who knows? Because it was like nothing. It was again like a little video game token.
Yeah, man. Now even I'm sad hearing that story.
Sorry.
All right. Well, I guess we covered everything we wanted to cover. I don't want to go over the whole Wolfowitz thing. We don't really have time. It's not that important anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
Guy's a loser.
Yes. Well, they may. Who knows? We'll see if they can complete their mission here. But I have a feeling they can't do it. I don't think they can actually take out Iran. I think that's just something that they hope for or needed for cover. But we're going to find out. I think Tuesday will be I will have a lot more information about what this whole thing was by Tuesday.
It's really three countries that are standing up to the U.S., right? Russia, China, and Iran.
That's like that would be like the power three. Yeah, I think so.
All the other ones are gone.
And it was interesting because Russia was just in the process. So I'm pretty sure that I think there was a deal that was had, and it was coming up soon because Russia announced that Roscom was going to start building these nuclear power plants in Iran. So they were starting that process. So Russia would have known that this deal was happening, and they were starting that. And then this, so this whole thing could be to try to derail that agreement.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, they were putting a bunch of Roscom had a release. I follow a lot of Roscom stuff because I'm invested in a lot of uranium in that because I think that's going to do very well in the future. It already has done very well, but it will do. I think it's going to be pretty common. Countries are going to have these small nuclear reactors, and that's going to be power for like all electricity needs.
What?
And the countries that aren't allowed to do it will be held back quite a bit. I think I get why Iran wants to do it because if you're not able to have that option, I think you're going to be held back because it's cheap power, very, very cheap.
Iran made a critical mistake. They attacked the world superpower when they took hostages, and I don't want to go and get into the debate of whether the CIA was behind that or not, but the U.S. has been punishing them ever since.
Yeah, it's tough there. There are very powerful groups that did not want that country to be successful for a long time. Like there's lots of things, and I understand a position to take like a hard stance position as defensive, or even as I'm just going to take advantage of this. Like I don't know enough about the history of it. I only know I understand that they would have been attacked. They seem to have Western groups kind of within there causing problems, and I get why a nation would want to have some kind of a defense. And you have to, you may have to go very, very extreme to be defensive against a much more powerful opponent. But I don't actually know. I'm not going to say it should be how it is or it shouldn't be how it is over there. I just don't know enough. But they've definitely been, I'm surprised that they've been able to do everything they've been able to do with all the sanctions, with everything that's going on. They've done well under those circumstances. But we'll find out. This will be a pretty good test, I think.
I'm also amazed that the country survived. By all accounts, it should have just fell apart decades ago.
Yeah, I think it's like every 6 months I'm told it's fallen apart, and it's been 20 years that they're building a bomb to bomb Israel. Like there's video of Bibi saying this 20 years ago, and they're using that. They're trying to use that now. I'm like, but you guys keep saying the same thing. Eventually, people aren't going to believe you.
But they do. They always do.
Yeah, and I don't even know what a nuclear bomb at this point. There's more lethal weapons now. I think the purpose of stopping nuclear or giving them any kind of the nuclear technology is to hold them back from having it as a power source. I don't believe that they're going to make bombs to bomb somebody. I just there's so many other ways to do things now. You can shut down like life systems within countries just going after the computers. It's possible to attack a country more effectively than a nuclear bomb at this point, I think.
My sort of belief is can America and the Soviet Union, they had an understanding. They said, we're the only ones that have nukes. We have our sphere of influence. We agree not to arm anyone else within our sphere and we can sort of operate. We'll go to war against each other, but those are the rules. And then they started violating those rules. So, Russia gives nukes to China, maybe Pakistan, definitely North Korea, and America gives nukes to Israel, maybe UK, France. And
America did not give nukes to Israel. That was not given.
what do you mean? You think they took them or what?
They did. Yeah, they took them. Yeah. That's what
I never actually read that book, The Samson. I have it. I haven't read it.
Well, JFK was going after me. He was trying to find out. He thought they stole the technology, and they were trying to look into their. I can't remember what the facility was called. It started with a D, but yeah, and the U.S. sent people to view it, but they wouldn't let them see the whole place. And then that was around the same time, just before JFK. So who knows what the thing was? There's lots of things that he was trying to do that was upsetting a lot of people. But yeah, they weren't supposed to have it, and now they have it, and they're not a part of any agreement with them. They won't say they have them.
I thought that the Samson option was that America gave those nukes to Israel.
Now, the Samson option is that if they feel that they're going to be taken over or eliminated, they're going to launch them.
Again, never actually read that book by C. Hirsch.
Yeah, they weren't given them. I don't even think they officially say they have them at this point. It was funny, that interview that had on Piers Morgan, where Dave Smith and that lawyer from the UK, they kept asking, does Israel have them? And she wouldn't answer. She wouldn't say anything because you can't incriminate her. She can't say anything. She couldn't even say that, yes or no, either way. She just would avoid the question. And they kept saying, why can't you answer the question? We're wondering why you can't answer this question. Does Israel have nuclear weapons, yes or no? And she wouldn't answer it. So I don't even know if they publicly state that they do. I think I've seen videos of Bibi ignoring the question or trying to elude the question as well. But I think that.
Can you imagine if it's just one giant bluff?
Maybe, actually. Yeah, maybe. Now, I'm pretty sure they have nuclear power there. And once you have that I think you can convert it into a bomb pretty easily. I think they're the same.
What about the UK? Did America give nukes to anyone? France, I'm guessing, did it on their own.
Yeah, I don't know how everyone got them in those ones. But once you have the ability to create a nuclear power plant or have that, you have the technology and the means to create a bomb from that point.
Have you looked into how to, like, the implosion device, plutonium bomb? Have you looked into that, the process of how that works?
No.
It's insane. You can ask ChatGPT. It's astounding how ChatGPT tells you exactly how to make an implosion style atomic bomb.
You can ask it to make anything as long as you word it in a way that's not like, I want to do it, but it's like, how would a bad guy do this? And it will give you the answer to how they do it. But it won't if you go, I'd like to make X, like some EMP device.
A little bored today. I was thinking of detonating a nuclear bomb.
Yeah.
But no, it's interesting. So you imagine a soccer ball. Remember the old soccer balls with the pentagons on the outside?
Yep.
And on the inside of that soccer ball, you put explosive charges, and it blows up inwards, and it compresses everything to like a very dense area, critical mass. But you can't just detonate a bomb. It won't arrive in a spherical shape. So for whatever reason, they detonate two bombs. One is fast, one is slow. And then they use lensing, different density, shape, material to slow down, and so that those two explosions arrive at the same time. I've read it 100 times. I still can't figure out how they get it to arrive in a spherical manner.
And what will the outcome be? Like, how is it much bigger than a nuclear bomb? Like, what's the?
No, that's the atomic bomb. That's what they dropped. That was the plutonium implosion one they dropped.
Yeah, okay, right. Yeah, I don't know. But again, I don't know if that's. I wouldn't do that. Like, again, unless you're trying to like shut down like key systems of the nation to hold them back or do something along those lines. I don't think you would use that kind of bomb now. You can see them. Everyone has pretty good defenses towards them now, especially Iran and Russia. They have the hypersonics. They can probably get them. So yeah, I don't know if they're going to do that. But if you went to a country and you legitimately shut down their, let's just say their water treatment facilities or whatever, something like that. Even the like payment systems for a bit, and people couldn't buy food for a week. No one's got food. Very few people have that. So there's things that you could do that I think would be more effective than using a nuclear bomb and blowing somebody up, or a city up, or whatever the target is.
I think
But it's big,
again,
big, scary.
it's what I said. Uh, you have a system set up by America and Russia, and you can't have people operating outside of that system. Which the decision's already been made. Iran cannot have a nuke, and that's just the way things are.
Yeah. But I think it goes with it means that they won't be able to have a nuclear power center or any kind of nuclear power, which I think going to the future is going to help hold a nation back, because you got to pay X more for your energy, right? If you're paying, I can't remember what the return on energy is for like nuclear towards like gas, even, or like something that's still fairly cheap, like coal, for example. It's like 50 times coal price. So that's cheap. That's very cheap energy. It lets you run factories cheaper, all this kind of stuff. So if you can hold nations back from doing that, I think you can. That's what they're going to use this for, and maybe they want to hold Iran back.
Yeah, but what America's saying is, Iran, you can have nuclear energy, just change your government. They and fall in line.
The thing is, I don't know what they're actually asking for. There's a lot of like things that come out. No one knows what the actual agreements are. I've seen, if you listen to, people from Iran, you're going to hear a different story. People from Europe are saying something different. They all have a different story. I don't know exactly what they truly want from this agreement, but there's they're trying to make some agreement. But I don't know if you can. I don't know if you can have nuclear power and then not know that they're not going to make a bomb somewhere in the mountain, right? Like, I don't know if you can ensure that. But
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
pretty sure Iran doesn't want to do it. I don't think they want a bomb to bomb people. I think it's just a liability. I think it's not even effective anymore. Not even like the best means of attack. So I think they're actually trying to stop them from even making their power system nuclear. But we'll see. It's early. That I was really hoping this agreement would come out, because I think that would answer a lot of questions. It would see like what was being asked by all sides and like what was agreed upon. But the fact that we can never see this deal is very we don't know. We don't know what's actually happening.
Well, that's a shame. Such is war.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's end it there. We're at the 1 hour mark. So.
Okay. Yeah. Perfect.
As usual, thanks for your time. And I don't know, I really enjoy these episodes because you clearly do a lot of reading.
Probably too much reading, to be honest. Probably it's a lot of listening. So I can do things and like listen, and then I'll have it just read off something to me, right? There's that's the advantage of some of these new tools. It just reads a PDF for you, so you're listening, but you're listening to something that was written. So it's mostly listening, but.
Well, let's hope you never lose your hearing.
Yes, of course.
All right. Until the next time, my friend. Take care.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks a lot.